Hey y'all, it's Ashley at Bookish Realm, and we are back here for the 6th day of Vlogmas. So we're slowly making our way through. 19 more days to go. Today's song is Every Year, Every Christmas by Luther Vandross, one of my favorite Christmas songs. It's actually quite sad in a little way. It's about a man who waits for his lover in the same spot every year, every Christmas, hoping that things will work out between the two of them. So I decided to go with a less sad theme in terms of books for this one. When I thought Every Year, Every Christmas, I was like, dang, what books do I have on my shelves every year, every Christmas that I still have not read? So what I'm going to be doing today is going through the 10 or 11 books that I've had on my TBR for the longest amount of time, the physical books. Because there are books that I've had on my TBR, but I don't physically own them, and I'm not going to add those to this list because I don't feel as pressed. But these are ones that I've owned for a very long time, so I need to get them read. So before we jump into the books, let's talk a little bit about this song, Every Year, Every Christmas. So Every Year, Every Christmas, of course, is by Luther Vandross. It was written for his 10th studio album and was released in 1995. What surprised me the most about this song is that it did okay upon release. I think it's probably because it's one of my personal favorites, and although it's a little sad, I just like the arrangement of it. But I was surprised to see and learn that it was not a very popular song. I think now when you talk to especially a lot of Black communities and we think about what we call soulful Christmas, in holiday music, this is one that definitely does make its rounds now. I thought it was really cool that Patti LaBelle actually covered the song in 2007, which she dedicated to Luther, which is really sweet of her. Okay, so we're actually going to be going through these books from the oldest to the latest, and unfortunately it's not going to really make much of a difference because all of these have been acquired in the year of 2014. Yes, 6 years later, going into 7 years later, 2021, I still own these books and I have not read them, but that is okay. We're not going to really talk about it. We're just not going to talk about it at all. All right, so the first book that I have on my list here is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Actually, this is the Barnes & Noble Classics edition, where it is A Christmas Carol, The Chimes, and The Cricket on the Hearth. I actually am going to be reading this month because of the fact that our Patreon buddy read for the month is A Christmas Carol. So that's okay. I know that's on a TBR right now, but it won't be on here for long. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the story of A Christmas Carol about Ebenezer Scrooge, how he is not a fan of Christmas and he meets the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future and learns a little bit about himself and others, and of course makes his journey of changing things before it gets too grim for him in the future. So I have seen so many different adaptations of A Christmas Carol. I think it's time that I actually read the source work. The next one that I have here is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and of course I think everyone has heard of Little Women. There was a movie adaptation, I believe, that came out this year, and this is also another Barnes & Noble Classics edition, and I heard that this is a super accessible classic that focuses on the March sisters. There are 4 of them, and we'll get to know a little bit about each one of their personalities and their life, and I know that this is a little sad. I kind of had a basic understanding of what happens. I think I was spoiled a little bit, but I actually have a vlog project for this one planned next year. So of course I'm not going to be getting to this one at all this year. Most of these I'm not. Actually, none of these except the first one am I going to touch this year. But this one I do plan on reading next year because I do have a project kind of in the works with this. But I am excited to read it. It is long. Font is kind of small, but I know that it is one that a lot of people do enjoy. Next on my list, I have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, and this is in the Penguin Classics edition. And I am not surprised that I had not read this one yet and that it's still on my TBR. I am intimidated by this book because I know that it's nonsensical, and I don't do well with stories that are written in that format. I have seen, once again, kind of like with Charles Dickens' work, A Christmas Carol, I have seen a lot of adaptations of Alice in Wonderland, but I have not read the source material, and I'm kind of fearful of the source material, even though I kind of know the story backwards and forwards at this point. But I think this is one that I definitely need to dive into, and I have some ideas I think that may work for this, and some project ideas that I could do for this. But I know someone who actually had recently read it and they thought that it was okay, but this nonsensical thing kind of worries me. But there are illustrations, which makes me really excited about that. I don't know if anybody has seen the illustrations that are in here, but it does make me more excited to read this one. Next on this list, I have The Constant Princess by Philippa Gregory. This focuses on Catherine of Aragon, who was originally the wife of the older brother of King Henry VIII, King Arthur, and then of course he passed away. She said that they didn't consummate their marriage, so therefore she was able to marry King Henry, and she's well known for having been quote-unquote pushed off of her throne by Anne Boleyn. I have a lot of respect for Catherine of Aragon in a lot of different ways, but this is her story, and it's supposed to give a backstory to who Catherine really was, and not just through the lens of the relationship that she had with her husband and with Anne. This is about who she was before, and how England really loved Catherine, and why they were not receptive to Anne getting access to the throne, and why they were so upset that Catherine was kind of pushed out. I am waiting to read this one because I'm reading the Plantagenet and Tudor series in a certain chronological order. So I'm not really sure where this one falls in the lineup of the series. So I really don't honestly know when I'm going to get to this one, but hopefully once I pick up Lady of the Rivers again, I will make my way to this one eventually. Next on this list, I have Cress by Marissa Meyer. So this one is one that I've been putting off reading for a very long time. I read the first 2 books in the series, which were Cinder and Scarlet, and I rather did enjoy those 2. At this point, I know that these books are older. I don't even know if they would really hold up in me rereading them, because I think their time has kind of passed, but I still have these books. I still want to give them a read because they were so pivotal in the YA movement, and they're actually good retellings. I did enjoy the first 2, like I said, and this one is based off of the story of Rapunzel. So this one is actually much thicker than the other ones. I think this one definitely sits at over 500 pages, but hopefully next year I will pick up the series and dive back into it and finally finish it maybe. I know. The next one that I have on this list is Jazz by Toni Morrison. I still have not made it through Toni Morrison's books, like her complete catalog, and because I read The Bluest Eye, y'all, and it was so hard on my soul. It was so hard reading The Bluest Eye, and I know that all of her books are going to be so hard hitting, so it is a level of intimidation there, but I definitely do want to get to her books. Maybe next year I need to make a plan about reading all of Toni Morrison's books. Maybe that needs to be a thing that happens, so yeah. But Jazz is on this list. Next, I have Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I have heard a lot of interesting things about V.E. Schwab. I feel like a lot of times she's one of those authors that you really either really enjoy or you don't enjoy. And this one is about 2 friends by the name of Victor and Eli, and they start experimenting with like near-death experiences, I believe. And I'm guessing that it gives them some type of supernatural power. I've seen this blurb as being like a superhero book. I'm not sure if that's really true, so if you've read Vicious, let me know. The 2 end up falling out. I believe Victor ends up in prison, he breaks out, and then he goes to find Eli, who is now his foe. So this is definitely one of her adult books. I think I just own her adult stuff. I don't think I own any of her YA stuff. So I have not read this one, but I have owned it for a minute, and I've wanted to read it for a while. So if you've read it, let me know if this one is worth reading. The other book that I have by her is A Darker Shade of Magic, which for people that I'm close with has been hit or miss. Next on this list, I have Les Mis by Victor Hugo. I talked about this one in my most intimidating books that are on my shelf, and this definitely was on it. This is still intimidating. I don't know when I'm gonna get to this. This is just so long. This is such a nice edition. It's super floppy and I love it, and I have all intentions of reading it. I just don't know when. I believe when I made that video, like, a lot of people were telling me that it took them a while to get through it, if not the entire year, then at least a few months to get through it. So this may be something that I may need to work my way through next year or the year after next. I don't want to set too many goals, but I've owned this one for a very long time, and I've been meaning to read it for a very long time. But if you've read Les Mis, let me know, and let me know what was your best experience. Like, how did you read it? Like, did you do blended reading? Did you kind of pace yourself, or did you pick it up when you felt like picking it up and that's just kind of how you went with it? The next one that I have on this list is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is one of Austen's works that I have not yet read, and this one is about a woman by the name of Catherine who goes to Bath, and she ends up falling in love with this man who wants to take her back to visit his estate and meet his family, which is Northanger Abbey. And I believe that Catherine has had some delving into Gothic works, and when she gets to this estate, she feels like there are some mysterious and dark things that are going on. And I believe that this is kind of like a entertaining coming of age story that kind of plays a little bit on Gothic themes. So I don't know if this is one of her more difficult ones to read or not, or whether this is one that people enjoy less than her other books. But the ones that I have read, I really enjoyed, but I have not picked this one up. But I think just from reading the description, this is one that I definitely do want to read sometime soon. And once again, this is another Barnes & Noble classic edition. The second to last one that I have on this list is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This is the third book in the Grishaverse trilogy. I have read the first book. I read the first book a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and really liked it. I just have not been able to push myself to finish the series, and I really do want to finish the rest of the series because I want to get to the spin-off duology, and then the duology that comes after that, all these books that are in the Grishaverse. Leigh Bardugo was actually a really great writer. Like, I do like her writing style. I think she's particularly gifted in writing and world building. I don't even really remember the particulars of the first book because I read it so long ago. So honestly, before I was even able to, or to be able to pick this one up, I would have to actually go back through and reread the first one. And I know that this version of this book wasn't out yet, but I had the old versions of this book and I got rid of them and I got this one. So technically, no, I haven't owned this one for 6 years, but I've owned this book, like the book itself, for 6 years. I just have a different edition of it. And the last one that I have on this list is City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. This is the 6th book in the Mortal Instrument series. It is a chunky book. I have not picked this one up because of the fact that it has been a very interesting journey in me reading Cassandra Clare stuff. I have read 4 of the books in this series, so I've read 4 of the Mortal Instruments books, and I think what turned me off from continuing this series is that I enjoyed the first 3. They were probably like solid 3.5 star reads, but I felt like with City of Glass, it ended perfectly. So when she extended it into a second trilogy, it felt like it was a cash grab type of situation. And the 4th book was just not it for me. I gave that one 2 stars. So by the time I was supposed to make it to the 5th book, I don't think I was really even that interested anymore because I was just really pissed about reading that 4th book. But I still do own the 6th book. I own the 5th book. I have a good portion of the books within the Mortal Instruments world, or whatever you want to call it. So maybe next year. I know I keep looking at these books and I keep saying next year. I have so many plans for next year. Let's see if I even get to any of these plans next year. But this is something that I really need to consider, because if I don't pick these up anytime soon, like, I'm gonna need to get rid of them because I've been holding on to them for too long, and the longer I wait, the more I'm gonna forget the story, and then I'm gonna have to reread and just never finish it. So I think next year, if I don't finish the series and I don't continue, it's going to be time to unhaul these. All right, y'all, so that's it. Those are the 11 books that have been on my TBR the longest. I don't know why it's 11. I could have just stopped at 10, but who knows why I do the things that I do. let me know in the comment box below, what are some books that have been on your TBR for a long time? You don't have to physically own them, but what are books that you've been meaning to get to for a long time and you haven't been able to get to them? As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. If you're interested in supporting my channel, links will be down below in the description box. If you're interested in following me on social media, all of those links will be down in the description box as well. And we will be back with another video tomorrow. Bye.